Your mind was never meant to feel this heavy, yet somehow, even in silence, it keeps moving, thinking, replaying, anticipating, and no matter how much you try to calm it, it finds something new to hold on to. The truth is, this restlessness didn't come from your life. It came from patterns you've been repeating for years without noticing. Constant reactions, unnecessary attachment, the habit of believing every thought, and slowly, peace slipped away. But in Buddhism, peace is not something you build from the outside. It's something that naturally appears when you stop feeding what disturbs you. In this video, you'll discover 7 powerful lessons, simple shifts that can quiet your mind almost instantly. Not complicated methods, not abstract ideas, just real principles that change how you experience everything. Lesson 1. Stop resisting reality. Suffering often begins in a very quiet, unnoticed way. The moment your mind starts arguing with what is already real, something happens, and instead of simply seeing it for what it is, your mind immediately creates a story around it. It says, "This shouldn't be happening," or "This is not how things were supposed to go." That internal resistance may seem small, but it creates a deep tension inside you. The situation itself might be simple, but the mental struggle you add to it makes it feel heavy and overwhelming. You replay moments that have already passed, wishing they had turned out differently. You imagine alternative outcomes, thinking that if something had changed, you would feel better now. But the past is not something you can rewrite. It exists only as a memory, yet your mind treats it like an open problem that still needs to be solved. This constant revisiting doesn't bring peace. It keeps the experience alive again and again, long after it has already ended. You resist the present moment when it doesn't match your expectations. Maybe things feel slower than you want, harder than you expected, or different from what you planned. Instead of allowing the moment to be as it is, the mind tightens. It compares reality with an imagined version of how things should be, and in that comparison, frustration is born. The gap between reality and expectation becomes the place where discomfort grows. What makes this more difficult is that resistance often feels justified. It feels like you are protecting yourself or trying to improve your situation, but in truth, resistance does not change reality. It only changes how you experience it. It adds pressure where there could be acceptance. It creates inner conflict where there could be clarity. The situation remains the same, but your relationship to it becomes strained. When you stop resisting, it does not mean you agree with everything that happens. It does not mean you become passive or stop taking action. It simply means you stop fighting what already exists at this moment. You see things clearly, without adding emotional weight on top of them. From that place, your mind becomes calmer, and your actions become more grounded and intentional. Acceptance is often misunderstood. It is not giving up, it is seeing things as they are, without distortion. When you accept reality, you remove the unnecessary struggle your mind creates. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed, and you begin to focus on what can be understood or responded to in a healthy way. This shift may seem subtle, but it has a powerful effect on your mental state. Think about how much energy is used in resisting situations you cannot control. The mind keeps pushing against something that is already there, like trying to move a wall by force. That effort leads to exhaustion, not change. But when you step back and allow the moment to exist without pushing against it, something inside you relaxes, the tension softens, the pressure reduces. You begin to feel lighter, not because life suddenly became easier, but because you stopped making it harder than it already is. There is also a clarity that comes with non-resistance. When you are no longer caught in emotional struggle, you can see the situation more objectively. You understand what is happening without exaggeration or distortion. This clarity allows you to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Your decisions become more balanced, and your mind becomes less chaotic. This practice can begin in very small moments. When something doesn't go your way, notice the immediate reaction in your mind. Notice the urge to complain internally, to reject the moment, or to mentally push it away. Instead of following that reaction, pause and observe it. Remind yourself that what is happening is already here. Fighting it will not undo it, but accepting it will free you from unnecessary suffering. This becomes a habit. You begin to meet life with less resistance and more openness. Challenges still arise, but they no longer carry the same mental weight. You move through experiences with greater ease because you are no longer adding extra layers of struggle on top of them. Peace begins at the exact point where resistance ends, not because everything suddenly becomes perfect, but because your mind stops turning every moment into a problem. When you allow reality to be what it is, you create space inside yourself, a space where calmness can exist, where clarity can grow, and where peace can quietly return. Lesson 2. You are not your thoughts. From the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep, your mind is constantly producing thoughts. Some are useful, some are neutral, and many are unnecessary. They appear automatically, without permission, and often without any clear reason. One thought leads to another, forming a continuous stream that feels personal and important. Over time, you become so used to this activity that you begin to assume these thoughts are who you are. But if you look closely, you will notice something important. Thoughts come and go on their own. You do not sit and consciously create each one. They simply arise, stay for a moment, and then disappear. If they were truly you, they would be stable and consistent. Yet your thoughts change throughout the day. One moment you feel confident, the next moment uncertain. One moment your mind is calm, the next it is filled with worry. This constant change shows that thoughts are not your identity. They are just passing events within your awareness. The problem begins when you believe every thought without question. The mind can produce judgments, fears, assumptions, and imagined scenarios, and you treat them as facts. A single negative thought can shape your mood, influence your decisions, and affect how you see yourself. You may think, "I'm not good enough," or "something will go wrong." And even though these are just thoughts, they start to feel real. The more attention you give them, the stronger they seem. When you identify with your thoughts, you get pulled into them. You follow their stories, react to their content, and become emotionally involved in something that may not even be true. This creates unnecessary stress and confusion. It is like watching clouds in the sky but believing you are inside them. You lose the ability to see clearly because you are caught within the movement of the mind. Understanding that you are not your thoughts creates distance. This distance is not separation in a negative way, it is clarity. You begin to notice thoughts instead of becoming them. You see them arise without immediately reacting. This simple shift changes everything. Instead of being controlled by every thought, you become aware of them as temporary experiences passing through your mind. This awareness brings a sense of calm. When a thought appears, you no longer have to follow it. You can observe it, let it stay for a moment, and then allow it to pass. You realize that not every thought deserves your attention. Some can simply be ignored without any consequence. This reduces the mental noise that usually fills your mind. It also changes how you respond to negative thinking. Instead of fighting thoughts or trying to force them away, you stop giving them power. You see them for what they are, just mental activity. Even strong thoughts lose their intensity when you stop identifying with them. They may still appear, but they no longer control your emotional state in the same way. This does not mean your mind will become completely silent. Thoughts will continue to arise because that is what the mind naturally does. The difference is in your relationship with them. You are no longer trapped inside every thought. You become the one who observes rather than the one who reacts. This practice can be very simple. When a thought appears, instead of immediately believing it, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this just a thought, or is it something real and necessary? Most of the time, you will notice that it is simply a mental pattern repeating itself. By recognizing this, you create space between you and the thought. This space becomes more natural. Your mind may still produce the same patterns, but they affect you less. You stop taking everything personally. You stop reacting to every internal voice. And as a result, your mind becomes quieter. Not because thoughts disappear, but because you are no longer feeding them with constant attention. There is a deep sense of freedom in this understanding. When you are no longer defined by your thoughts, you are no longer limited by them. You can experience life more directly, without the constant filter of mental commentary. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more present. Peace does not come from controlling every thought. It comes from realizing that you don't have to. The moment you stop identifying with your thoughts, you step out of unnecessary mental struggle, and in that space, where thoughts are seen but not followed, your mind naturally begins to settle. Lesson 3. Release the illusion of control. Much of the tension you feel in your mind comes from a quiet need to control everything around you. You try to manage outcomes, predict what will happen next, and shape situations so they match your expectations. This habit often feels reasonable, even necessary, because control gives the mind a sense of safety. It creates the feeling that if you can just organize things properly, nothing will go wrong. But beneath that effort, there is constant pressure. Life does not move according to your plans alone. People have their own thoughts, their own choices, and their own paths. Situations change without warning. Outcomes shift in ways you cannot fully predict. When reality does not follow your expectations, frustration appears. The more tightly you hold on to control, the more uncomfortable it becomes when things move differently than you wanted. This is where the illusion begins. The mind convinces you that control is possible in areas where it is not. It tells you that if you think enough, plan enough, or worry enough, you can prevent uncertainty. But no matter how much effort you put into controlling everything, there will always be factors beyond your reach. Trying to manage all of it creates a constant state of tension because you are holding on to something that cannot be fully held. This does not mean that all control is wrong. There are parts of life where your actions matter, your decisions, your effort, your behavior. These are within your influence. But the problem starts when you extend that control to everything else. You begin trying to control how others see you, how events unfold, or what the future will look like. And when those things do not align with your expectations, it feels like something is wrong. Letting go of control is often misunderstood. It does not mean you stop caring or become passive. It means you clearly recognize the difference between what you can influence and what you cannot. You continue to act where your actions matter, but you release the need to control the final outcome. This shift removes a large amount of mental pressure. When you stop trying to control everything, your mind becomes lighter. You are no longer constantly calculating, predicting, or worrying about every possible scenario. Instead, you begin to trust the natural flow of life. This trust does not mean everything will always go your way, but it allows you to handle whatever comes without unnecessary resistance. There is also a sense of openness that appears when control is released. You become more flexible in how you respond to situations. Instead of forcing life into a fixed plan, you adapt as things unfold. This makes your experience less rigid and more balanced. You are no longer fighting against change. You are moving with it. This can be practiced in simple ways. Notice when your mind is trying to control something beyond your reach. It might be worrying about how someone will respond or trying to guarantee a certain outcome. When you become aware of this, pause and remind yourself that not everything needs to be controlled. Allow the situation to unfold without forcing it in a specific direction. This practice reduces anxiety. Much of worry is rooted in trying to secure the future before it arrives, but the future cannot be fully managed in advance. When you release that need, your mind no longer has to carry the weight of uncertainty in the same way. You become more present because your attention is no longer trapped in imagined outcomes. There is also a deeper calm that develops. When you stop holding on to control, you stop creating unnecessary internal conflict. You are no longer resisting how things are unfolding. Instead, you are working with what is in front of you. This creates a sense of stability that does not depend on everything going perfectly. Peace comes not from controlling life, but from understanding its nature. Some things are within your reach, and many are not. When you accept this clearly, your mind relaxes, you do what you can with clarity and intention, and you allow the rest to unfold as it will. The illusion of control fades when you see that life is not something you can fully direct, but something you can move through with awareness. And when that illusion fades, a quiet freedom appears, one where your mind is no longer burdened by the need to manage everything, and where peace becomes a natural state rather than something you have to chase. Lesson 4. Free yourself from others' opinions. A large part of the pressure you feel in your mind does not come from your life itself. It comes from how you believe others are seeing you. Without realizing it, you begin to live inside other people's perspectives. You think about how you sound, how you appear, how your choices might be judged. This constant awareness slowly turns into a habit, and over time, it starts shaping the way you behave. You begin to filter your actions before you even take them. You hesitate before speaking. You adjust your personality depending on who is around you. You choose what feels acceptable rather than what feels true. And although this may help you avoid criticism in the moment, it creates a quiet tension inside, because deep down, you are no longer acting freely. You are acting according to imagined expectations. What makes this more difficult is that the mind often exaggerates how much others are paying attention. It creates a sense that people are constantly observing, analyzing, and forming opinions about you. But in reality, most people are occupied with their own thoughts, their own concerns, and their own lives. The attention you believe is focused on you is often much smaller than you imagine. Even when people do form opinions, those opinions are shaped by their own experiences, beliefs, and moods. They do not reflect your full reality. Two different people can see the same action in completely different ways. This shows that opinions are not fixed truths. They are interpretations. And when you base your peace on something so unstable, your mind remains unsettled. The need for approval often begins early. You learn that being accepted brings comfort, and being rejected creates discomfort. Over time, this turns into a pattern where you seek validation to feel secure. You may not always notice it, but it influences your decisions in subtle ways. You look for signs that you are being accepted, and you feel uneasy when those signs are missing. The problem is that this need can never be fully satisfied. No matter how carefully you present yourself, there will always be someone who disagrees, misunderstands, or judges. Trying to control how everyone sees you is impossible, and the more you try, the more disconnected you become from your natural way of being. Freeing yourself from others' opinions does not mean ignoring people completely or becoming indifferent. It means recognizing that your inner stability should not depend on external approval. You can still listen, learn, and grow from feedback, but you are no longer defined by it. You understand that your worth is not something that changes based on someone else's perspective. When you begin to release this dependence, something shifts inside you. You start to act with more honesty. Your words become more natural. Your decisions become clearer because they are no longer filtered through the fear of judgment. This creates a sense of alignment. Your inner state and your outer actions begin to match. There is also a sense of relief that comes with this freedom. You no longer carry the constant mental weight of trying to be seen a certain way. You stop replaying conversations in your mind, wondering how you were perceived. You stop overanalyzing small details that do not truly matter. Your mind becomes quieter because it is no longer focused on something outside your control. This practice begins with awareness. Notice when your actions are being shaped by the fear of what others might think. Notice the moments when you hold back, adjust yourself, or overthink your behavior. Instead of immediately following that pattern, pause and ask yourself if this action reflects what is true for you, or if it is being driven by the need for approval. You will start to trust yourself more. This trust reduces the need for constant validation. You become more comfortable with being seen as you are, even if it is not always perfectly received, and with that comfort comes a deeper sense of peace. It is also important to understand that letting go of others' opinions does not mean you will never be affected by them. Thoughts may still arise, and moments of doubt may still appear, but they will no longer control your actions in the same way. You will recognize them and then return to your own center instead of getting lost in them. There is a quiet strength in living without the constant need for approval. It allows you to move through life with more clarity and less pressure. You become less reactive, less anxious, and more grounded in your own experience. This does not separate you from others. It actually allows for more genuine connection because you are no longer performing or adjusting yourself to fit expectations. Peace begins to grow when you step out of the imagined space of other people's minds and return to your own awareness. When you are no longer trying to manage how you are perceived, your energy becomes more stable. Your attention returns to what is real, rather than what is imagined. Freedom from others' opinions is not about changing how people see you. It is about changing how much importance you give to those perceptions. When that importance fades, the mental noise around it fades as well, and in that quiet space your mind becomes lighter, clearer, and more at ease. Lesson 5. Master the pause before reaction. Most of the stress you experience does not come directly from what happens around you. It comes from how quickly your mind reacts to it. Something small occurs, and almost instantly a reaction rises. A comment, a delay, a mistake, a tone of voice. These moments trigger a chain of thoughts and emotions before you even realize what is happening. The reaction feels automatic, as if there is no space between the event and your response. This automatic pattern is deeply conditioned. Over time, your mind learns to respond in familiar ways. If something feels uncomfortable, it reacts with irritation. If something feels uncertain, it reacts with worry. If something feels threatening, it reacts with defensiveness. These reactions happen so quickly that they feel natural, but in reality, they are learned habits repeating themselves. The problem with reacting instantly is that it removes clarity. When you react without awareness, your response is driven by emotion rather than understanding. You say things you didn't fully mean, you make decisions without seeing the full picture, and you carry feelings that could have passed if you had given them a moment. A single reaction can turn a small situation into a larger one, simply because it was not observed before being expressed. There is always a small space between what happens and how you respond. It may be brief, almost unnoticeable, but it is there. In that space lies your ability to choose. When you are not aware of it, the mind fills that space instantly with habit. But when you begin to notice it, you regain control over your response. Mastering the pause means becoming aware of that space and learning to stay in it, even for a few seconds. It is the moment where you do not immediately speak, act, or follow the first thought that appears. Instead, you observe what is happening inside you. You notice the emotion rising. You notice the thoughts forming, but you do not act on them right away. This pause does not require effort in a forceful way. It is a simple shift in attention. You bring your awareness to the present moment instead of being pulled into the reaction. You may take a breath or simply remain silent for a brief moment. That small gap creates distance between you and the impulse to react. In that distance, something important happens. The intensity of the emotion begins to settle. Thoughts become clearer. What felt urgent a moment ago no longer feels as overwhelming. You begin to see the situation more accurately, without the distortion created by immediate reaction. This allows you to respond in a way that is more balanced and thoughtful. Responding is different from reacting. A reaction is fast, automatic, and often driven by emotion. A response is calm, intentional, and guided by awareness. When you respond, you are not suppressing your feelings, you are choosing how to express them in a way that does not create unnecessary tension. This practice has a powerful effect on your daily life. Conversations become calmer because you are not responding impulsively. Conflicts become easier to handle because you are not adding emotional intensity to them. Decisions become clearer because you are giving yourself time to think instead of rushing into action. It also changes your internal experience. When you react quickly, your mind stays active, replaying what happened and adding more thoughts on top of it. But when you pause, the situation often ends more quietly. There is less to carry afterward because you did not escalate it through immediate reaction. This may feel unfamiliar. The mind is used to moving quickly, and slowing down can feel uncomfortable. You may notice the urge to react strongly, especially in situations that trigger you deeply, but even noticing that urge is part of the practice. Awareness itself begins to weaken the automatic pattern. You do not need to pause perfectly every time. Even a small delay can make a difference. One moment of awareness is enough to change the direction of a situation. With time, these moments become more frequent. The space between event and response becomes more noticeable, and you begin to live with greater control over your actions. This does not mean you will never feel strong emotions. Emotions will still arise because they are part of being human, but you will no longer be controlled by them in the same way. You will experience them, understand them, and choose how to act from a place of awareness. There is a quiet strength in this ability. It allows you to remain steady even when situations are challenging. You are no longer pulled in every direction by external events. Instead, you remain grounded, able to respond with clarity rather than being carried away by impulse. Peace grows in that space between stimulus and response. The more you learn to pause, the more you reduce unnecessary conflict, both within yourself and in your interactions with others. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable simply because you are no longer reacting without awareness. Mastering the pause is not about controlling every reaction perfectly. It is about creating enough space to see clearly before you act. And in that space, your mind becomes calmer, your actions become wiser, and your experience of life becomes more balanced and peaceful. Lesson 6. Reduce what your mind is chasing. Your mind is almost always moving towards something. It is searching, planning, wanting, comparing, and reaching for what it believes will complete you. It tells you that peace exists somewhere ahead, just beyond your current situation. If you achieve a certain goal, gain more recognition, earn more, improve yourself further, or finally get what you've been waiting for, then you will feel settled. Until then, it keeps pushing you forward. This movement can feel motivating. It gives you direction and a sense of purpose. But when this chasing becomes constant, it quietly turns into restlessness. No matter what you achieve, the mind does not stop. It simply creates a new target. You reach one point, and almost immediately another desire appears. What once felt important loses its intensity, and something else takes its place. This cycle continues without a clear end. Because of this pattern, the mind rarely feels satisfied. It becomes conditioned to believe that what you have is not enough, and that peace depends on what is still missing. Even in moments where everything is relatively fine, the mind introduces a new concern, a new comparison, or a new desire. This prevents you from fully experiencing the present, because your attention is always pulled toward what is not yet here. A large part of mental fatigue comes from this constant chasing. It is not only physical effort that exhausts you, but the ongoing pressure of always needing something more. The mind keeps running even when there is no real urgency. It holds on to future outcomes as if they are necessary for your well-being. and as long as it continues to chase, it remains unsettled. Reducing what your mind is chasing does not mean you stop growing or working toward meaningful goals. It means you become aware of unnecessary desires that are driven by habit rather than genuine need. You begin to question whether every pursuit is truly important, or if it is simply another pattern of the mind seeking something to hold on to. When you observe your thoughts carefully, you may notice how often they are focused on what is missing. The mind compares your current situation to an imagined ideal. It tells you that something is incomplete. But many of these comparisons are not based on reality. They are based on expectations that have been shaped over time. By believing them without question, you create a constant sense of lack. Letting go of this pattern begins with awareness. You start to notice when your mind is chasing something unnecessarily. You see the urge to move toward another goal, another improvement, another form of validation. Instead of immediately following that urge, you pause and examine it. You ask yourself whether this pursuit is truly meaningful or simply another attempt to fill a space that does not need to be filled. As you begin to reduce this chasing, something changes in your experience. Your attention returns to what is already present. You start to see that many moments are already complete as they are. There is less urgency, less pressure, and less mental noise. The need to constantly move forward softens, and your mind becomes more still. This shift also changes your relationship with goals. You can still work toward things, but the emotional weight attached to them decreases. Your sense of well-being is no longer dependent on achieving a specific outcome. You act with intention, but without the constant tension of needing results to feel at peace. This creates a more balanced way of moving through life. There is also a deeper sense of contentment that develops. When the mind is no longer focused on what is missing, it becomes more aware of what is already here. Simple experiences feel more complete. You are not constantly measuring them against something else. This allows you to appreciate moments without the pressure of turning them into something more. This practice can be applied in small ways. Notice when you feel the urge to check something repeatedly, to seek approval, or to move quickly from one task to another without rest. These are often signs that the mind is chasing stimulation or validation. Instead of immediately responding to these urges, allow yourself to slow down. Let the moment be enough without adding more to it. This reduces the mental momentum that keeps the mind restless. You begin to experience longer periods of calm, not because everything has been achieved, but because the need to constantly achieve has weakened. The mind becomes less demanding, and your inner state becomes more stable. It is important to understand that chasing itself is not the problem. Unconscious chasing is. When you are unaware of why you are pursuing something, it easily turns into a cycle that never satisfies you. But when you are aware, you can choose your direction with clarity. You can engage in life without being driven by endless desire. Peace is not found at the end of chasing. It is found when the need to chase begins to fade. The moment you stop looking for something outside to complete your inner state, you begin to feel a quiet sense of enoughness. Nothing extra is required in that moment for you to feel settled. As this understanding deepens, your mind naturally slows down. It is no longer constantly reaching forward. It becomes more present, more grounded, and more at ease. And in that stillness, peace is no longer something distant. It becomes something you experience here and now. Lesson 7. Come back to now. Most of the noise in your mind does not come from what is happening right now. It comes from what has already happened or what has not happened yet. The mind moves back into the past, replaying moments, analyzing decisions, and holding on to things that are already finished. At the same time, it moves forward into the future, imagining possibilities, creating scenarios, and worrying about outcomes that do not yet exist. Between these two directions, your attention is rarely settled in the present moment. This constant movement creates a sense of pressure. The past brings regret, guilt, or unresolved emotions. The future brings uncertainty, fear, or anticipation. Even when your current situation is calm, the mind can still feel heavy because it is not fully here. It is carrying experiences that are no longer real or preparing for situations that may never come. If you look closely at the present moment, you may notice something simple. Right now, in this exact moment, there is often far less happening than your mind suggests. The body is here, the surroundings are here. The breath is moving in and out. Many of the problems the mind is focused on are not actually present, they exist only as thoughts. But because your attention is caught in those thoughts, they feel real and immediate. Now means gently bringing your attention out of those mental movements and into direct experience. It is not about forcing the mind to be silent or stopping thoughts completely. It is about shifting where your attention rests. Instead of following every thought into the past or future, you begin to notice what is happening right here. This can begin with something very simple, like noticing your breath. You feel the air as it enters and leaves your body. You notice the sensation without trying to change it. In that moment, your attention is no longer lost in thought. It is grounded in experience. This small shift creates a sense of stability. You can also bring attention to your surroundings. Notice the sounds around you, the feeling of your body, the details of your environment. These are not ideas or memories, they are direct experiences happening now. When your attention is fully here, the mind naturally becomes quieter, not because thoughts disappear, but because you are no longer feeding them with constant attention. One of the reasons the present moment feels unfamiliar is because the mind is used to being occupied. It is used to thinking, planning, and analyzing. When there is nothing urgent to solve, it creates something to focus on. This is why stillness can feel uncomfortable at first. The mind tries to pull you back into thinking, because that is what it is used to doing. But if you stay with the present moment even briefly, you begin to notice a different quality of experience. There is less tension, there is less pressure to fix or control anything. The moment is simple, and in that simplicity there is a sense of ease. You are no longer carrying the weight of the past or future, you are just here. This does not mean the past and future are unimportant. They have their place when needed, but they do not need to occupy your attention constantly. When you return to the present, you use the mind when it is useful, rather than being used by it all the time. Now can be practiced in small moments. While walking, notice each step. While eating, notice the taste and texture of your food. While listening to someone, give your full attention instead of thinking ahead. These simple actions bring your awareness back to the present, again and again. This becomes more natural. You begin to spend more time in direct experience and less time lost in unnecessary thinking. Situations that once felt overwhelming become easier to handle because you are dealing with what is actually happening, not everything your mind is adding to it. There is also a clarity that comes with being present. When your attention is not divided between past and future, you can see things more clearly. Your responses become more accurate, your actions more intentional, and your mind less scattered. This clarity reduces confusion and brings a sense of steadiness. The present moment is the only place where life is actually happening. Everything else exists as memory or imagination. When you continuously return to now, you reconnect with what is real. This connection reduces unnecessary suffering because you are no longer reacting to things that are not truly here. Peace is not something that needs to be created in the present. It is already available when the mind is not distracted. The more you return to now, the more you notice that calmness is not something distant. It is something that has always been here, beneath the movement of thought. Each time you come back to the present, even for a few seconds, you strengthen this awareness. It becomes easier to return again. Gradually, the mind spends less time wandering and more time resting in what is real. Now is not a complicated practice. It is a simple redirection of attention. Again and again you leave unnecessary mental noise and return to what is here. And in that return, your mind becomes quieter, your experience becomes clearer, and peace becomes something you can feel right now without needing anything else to change. Peace is not something you find at the end of life. It is something you build in small, quiet moments like these. Every time you stop reacting, every time you let go, every time you return to yourself, you are training your mind to become lighter. Not instantly, but deeply and permanently. These rules may seem simple, but if you live them, they will change how you experience everything. Because a peaceful mind is not something you are given, it is something you create. And the moment you commit to that, life doesn't need to be perfect for you to feel at peace.